Hello, I hope this is not too wobbly. I am driving, but I'm also looking at the road. Only look at you and I'm at red lights. Yeah? Okay. So, welcome. Welcome. I don't normally do a video, whatever this is, but I'm on the way to my dentist appointment and I finished up playing Seamstress for my sister this weekend and I decided I will share with you things that I've learned over the course of the weekend on sewing dresses in time for her wedding, right? Well, her wedding's this coming weekend, so I had this past weekend to work on it, and I had to, one, fix her elastic in the back because she had a really old elastic, which I'll show you right here. It's part of it already came off, and then you got this other piece, and it's missing. They're hooks, and this eye is loose, so I have to fix the eyes, and then sew the elastic on. And if you can see, how they put this elastic in to begin with was opening the dress up and then sewing it in that seam. Well, I'm not doing all that, so I just folded the elastic over and then hand stitched it in right there, which looks pretty good, right? It's a wedding dress. It's beautiful, and I needed to fix that part. So I did that, and then I did my sister's hemming of her dress. Which there's a few things that I learned about that as well. Just because you measure on the person, you can't just cut it off the person. Not in my situation because she kept moving a lot. So I pinned it. It looks good where it pinned. And then I took it off. I used my ruler, and when she had it on, before she took it off and the pins were there, I measured how much fabric I pinned up to get that length that we wanted. So then I took the pins out, and then with that measurement, I subtracted about 2 inches away just to give myself enough hem, because I was going to do a double rolled hem on it. So that was going to give me the amount of seam allowance that I needed for that. So I think I only cut about 2 inches off because her measurements were 4 inches completely off the dress. And this dress had not only the outer layer fabric, but also it had a inline, what is that name? Guys, just decided to take you on this highway adventure because I don't normally come down this way, and holy bejeebus, it is tight. Yes, Hanson makes fun of me all the time. You can probably barely see it, but you kind of see the side. I'm not gonna adjust the camera either because then I might hit the side of the railing. I'm not gonna do that. But there you go. Back to me! Yay! This part is a little bit bigger, so it's okay. But the seam, it's not a seam, I just slip. It's called a slip, right? So she had a slip in the bottom of her, like the outer dress part, and then it had a slip, and I had to hem both of those pieces together. So I did the slip part a little bit shorter than I did the outside, and guys, I messed up on the outside. I did not catch this as everything was going well, right? I pinned it, I measured, I took the pins out, I ran my ruler across each part of the dress, and then I cut it out, and then I pinned it up to do one hem, one run through, because then I was going to roll it up again after I did the first one. And then look what I did, guys. I folded it the wrong way. So the pretty side is on the wrong side, and the wrong side is on the pretty side. But we're not gonna rip none of this out. Remember, I am on a time crunch, right? So we're just gonna fold this over again. We're gonna have it a nice thick seam down here, and then we're just gonna sew it up and go on our way. And as I let my sister record this part, after she stopped the filming, my sewing machine jammed up a little bit, and I have a big rat's nest underneath, which I do know why. I went over that one part of the seam that was really, really thick, and it kind of skipped a little bit, and then that's what happened, right? So after I cut some of that thread apart so I could get my bobbin out of there. After I took the bobbin out, the thread still was fine and stuff. It was still tight down in the bobbin little piece, so I put it back into the machine and then tested it out on my scrap piece that I cut off the dress to begin with, and it came out good. It's back to how it was working before. So I went back to my dress and started sewing again. I backstitched just a little bit to try to keep the old the part that I stopped at, to keep that in place and not let that unravel, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. If you're following along, I don't know if that makes sense in your head. I tried. But after that, can I just say, this double rolled hem thingy was not in the plan. I bought a rolled hem foot like years ago when I had my original sewing machine, and I was going to use that to sew the bottoms. Easy peasy, don't have to pin nothing, just gotta flip it through the little bars and the rolled hem foot thingy and let it do its job, right? But I guess this doesn't work for this older style machine. So, lesson learned, if you're gonna use a foot, make sure it actually works on your machine first. Or you're gonna get stuck rolling hems like I did, which at the end of the day, it was fine. And my color thread didn't quite match the dress, but from a distance, you can't even really tell. It's like a brighter pink, and this is like a beigey pink dress, I guess you would say. So that's one of the lessons I learned. Also, another lesson I learned was, don't be afraid to fix things on a wedding dress. Because if you start looking closely at wedding dresses, maybe it might be different. Like if you're getting $5,000 wedding dress and a really cheaper wedding dress. But I think the same should apply for any dress. Is when you're making your seams, they should look pretty, especially if you're going to be charging them a whole lot of money for that said dress. If I had time, I would totally rip my dress open, because we all have the matching bridesmaid's dress. And I mean, we have matching dresses of the colors, but they're different styles. And so, even with that said, there's parts of the dress that's just like, why? Like our bridesmaid dresses, when you got it on, and even if you went to braless, you couldn't really go braless because there's no support at all. And also, you're going to have a weird line on the breast part of the outfit because they did not take into consideration of the seams underneath and the top layer of the fabric. That top layer of the fabric is too thin to hide away the bottom seams of that back panel fabric, whatever you want to say it. It's too thin. And so if I had time, I would put a fabric in the middle of that and sew that up to where you wouldn't be able to see that weird seams on the breast part, because that's weird, guys. That's weird. So if I had time, I would do that to both mine and my sister's dress. And I would also add in cups, like supportive cups, and maybe some boning, so we wouldn't have to order extra stuff to support the tatas. Although I'm mainly the one that needs support to sports the tatas because my sister can go without. It's lucky. I did write things down that I was going to go over. 5 things I learned playing Seamstress. Use a ruler and tailor's chalk or a pen to mark around the bottom. That way, you will know where to cut and it will be even from the first part that you cut all the way around, and there won't be any lopsided sections. Use a ruler and marking down how many inches you need to take off minus how many inches you're going to have to use for your rolled seam allowance. Depending on what type of hem you're doing, you need to take into consideration. Is it just a rolled hem with a rolled hem foot? Because then I wouldn't have had to take as little off as I did. I would probably take off 3 inches and have the rolled hem on the bottom, and that would be perfect length. But instead, I wanted to play it safe because it's a lot easier to seam rip and take some of that out instead of cutting it and then it being way too short because it'll look kind of funky if you try to sew it back on, right? Another one is to, as I said earlier, make sure the foot that you want to use actually is going to work with your machine prior to setting off on this project, because that would have saved me lots of time, and maybe I could have ordered a different foot that would actually fit. Or maybe it's this user area and I don't know how to put the foot on properly. I don't know. I have to research that a little bit later, right? Double rolled hem is your friend when your first thought failed you. This is what I went to. It made it look pretty. And also, looking back at the dresses, hers bottom, her slip dress bottom was just serged, and then her outside bottom was just rolled over. Like one time with the serge, and then mine was finished off differently as well. Mine had a thinner hemline than hers did. Hers was a little bit thicker, which was weird to see, right? And don't be afraid. Another thing to learn is don't be afraid to ask them to try it on multiple times, okay? You pinned it, you cut it. Let them try it on to make sure how many inches are you going to roll up or centimeters that you need to take away when you're doing the seam, right? And when you get a bird's nest at the bottom of your bobbin casing, cut off the thread, test it out on a scrap sheet of fabric, and continue your work. Don't just give up and get frustrated. Take a break, have some lunch because you might be hungry and you might be dehydrated. Drink some water and then start again, okay? Another one. When you cut that extra fabric off, because you're going to have that same fabric, it is best, I feel like, to test out what needle you have and what kind of stitches you want to do on that scrap piece of fabric that you just cut away from. Because that's going to be what it looks like when you actually do the dress with that same kind of fabric. And so, before I even started, I had a different type of needle. I believe it was the Demin, the jean fabric needle. However you say that, because apparently I can't say it right now. But I had that needle still in the machine, and I knew that was way too thick, so I had to take that out. And then I had a choice between a knit, a regular needle, and a sheer needle. That's what it was. And so I decided to go with the knit because although it's silky like a sheer fabric, that it was kind of giving me that knitty texture feel. So I went with that needle, and it worked out fine. That's pretty much all I got to take away from that. Your different points, I'll list them right here to go back over the points that I just mentioned. Oh, when you're applying that elastic, it even said it on the box, stretch it out just a little bit, like choop, 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 stretch it, and then measure where it's at, because over time it's going to lose its elastic. I mean, not lose its elastic. It's going to get stretched out. And I put that into consideration and made it slightly shorter in length, so when she does put it on, it stretches, but it doesn't stretch too much to where it won't hold her together where it needs to. So I did do that. And when I did sew the elastic on there, another tip for you, or my takeaway learning, I didn't just like straight the piece of elastic and then sewed it on there, right? I folded the elastic, put it down on there, and then sewed it on there, if that makes sense. I folded it. So I get 2 layers of the elastic into the fabric instead of just the one piece of elastic into the fabric. Gives it a little bit more hanging structure, I don't know, more grip to the elastic instead of just one little piece of the elastic, so it doesn't break so easily, because I feel like that's what happened to her last one, and if they did that prior, it wouldn't have broke off. But then also her thingies were pretty old, and you could tell it was old, so yeah. Well, I'm almost to my dentist appointment. It's about 10 minutes, and I really wanted to do this video. I wanted to get my voice out here before I get my tooth pulled, because I will not be talking for a while, not even eating for a while. So I wanted to get this out while I still sounded normal and not sounding like I'm gagging on something, because tooth is getting pulled today. And I'm not going to have a clear mind later on. And some cool little facts about weddings that I decided to share with you was, did you know the longest wedding dress train was found in Germany, and it measured over 515 feet? Can you imagine having a train that long? Be like, excuse me, bride coming through, don't you step on my train. You're going to have to wait till the whole feet is gone before you can pass. A sugar cube in the glove in Greek culture meant the sugar is meant to sweeten the union. Isn't that so nice? In white dresses, while white is now the norm, brides in ancient Rome wore red to symbolize fire and passion, which I feel like some people still add a little bit red to their wedding dresses, although mostly if it's white, they have little red accents. Maybe they're thinking of that, you know? And garter toss, which I always thought, why do you do that? Why do a bride has to wear that just so it can get tossed away to the crowd? I thought that was kind of strange, and then I saw it's a medieval superstition that guests taking a piece of the bride's dress brought good luck. So, maybe so. And don't worry, brides to be, crying on your wedding day is said to bring good luck. I mean, we always cry tears of joy. We're also happy, anxious, tears of joy, nervousness, right? And veils, which a lot of brides nowadays, I feel like, don't wear veils, but they used to be a common thing. In ancient times, brides wore veils to hide their faces from evil spirits. Yes, some things are very superstitious back in the day, right? Well, that's all I have for today's video. I need to go get my tooth pulled now. But I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little different, and I'm sorry that I had to be driving and talking to you at the same time. But that's how it is today, this time. Oh well, other videos won't be like that. I hope you have a beautiful day. You are beautiful. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You're beautiful, strong, amazing. Have a beautiful day. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you next time. If you like this video, make sure you like it, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.